This week on Shift Points, we get the 55 stripped down to the absolute bare bones. Thank you guys for joining.
Parking outside and there was a ton of He started this project. Found a piece of brass he's gonna take.
Alright everyone. Alright, we're back. Dad has taken and went and collected up some material, so we're actually ready to get back onto this thing. You guys saw us last time. We got the steering rack stiffened up, and so that was a kind of a good starting point for us. We got the heim joints. We went through the heim joints on the lower control arms. That was all really good stuff to kind of get started with. But now we can kind of get into the meat of this a little bit more. So we went down to, or well, Dad went down to Stock Car Steel in Mooresville, picked up some aluminum. We can do a couple different things with this stuff. The other thing that we got that I want to show you guys is we were watching a Tim McAmis video, as you do, because that guy is pretty dang smart and knows what he's talking about. But anyway, he was talking about rivets that he used and the different styles that he used. And one of the styles that he uses is called an Avex rivet. And Stock Car Steel actually had some of these in stock. If I can get this to focus. There we go. So you can see these rivets have like 3 different indentions, and that actually lets this, whenever you go and you tighten this rivet up, it will actually collapse in 3 different segments. And so that will keep it, it makes a really good grip, make sure that they don't try and slip or do anything crazy, and it has a really good hold, right? It's not going to let that thing come out. So we got a bunch of these in a bunch of different sizes. That's really cool, and we're going to use these across the board from now on. You can go watch his video on rivets and he'll tell you what he thinks about the other ones. So go check that out if you want to. I'll link it if I can. But anyway, so the other thing with this stock, what we're going to do today, the plan is to work on the throttle linkage. So let's get up here and look here a little bit. So we've talked about it before. Dad has worked on the actual linkage between the 2 carburetors. Now all we have to do is get the linkage that is already here for the carburetors connected to the actual pedal, so that whenever you mash the pedal, that it'll actually accelerate. It'll open the carburetors up like it's supposed to. So it's going to be a pretty straightforward piece, I think. So you can see here, this is where it has to connect here on this lever, and when you pull back on this lever, it actuates all the carburetors. It's a little hard to pull from here, but if I pull it here, this is doing the same thing. If I pull back on this, it pulls this down. So when I do that, it opens up the carburetors like it's supposed to, and it doesn't need to stick like that. That's one thing for sure. Anyway, we can do this. That opens carburetors up, and then allow them to close as well. So basically that piece there needs to connect right here, and needs to run back through the firewall and then connect right there to the top of this throttle pedal. Like I said, pretty straightforward piece. He got some 3/16 aluminum to make that, sorry, 5/16 aluminum to make that, and then some heims on each side of this. So I'm going to take you over there and show you that stuff, kind of show you what the plan is there. So if you guys remember a couple weeks ago, Dad said that his friend Fred had told him the best way to know if something on a race car was too heavy is if you threw it up in the air and it came back down, it was too heavy. Well, these heim joints here are an example of that. These things are crazy light. They are high strength heim joints. They're number 10. They're number 10s. But anyway, these heim joints are crazy light. Definitely the ball inside here is by far the heaviest part of the whole assembly. Crazy, crazy light. But basically, what this is going to end up looking like, I should have opened another one before I started this. So basically, the end goal of this is to have a unit like this. I'll have a heim joint on one side of it. This will be threaded. Thread that into this rod. Heim joint here. Go down the length. We'll set the length. We'll measure, figure out how long it needs to be. And of course, because of the threads here, we have some adjustment. And then another heim joint on this side. This will go onto the pedal. This will go onto the throttle linkage on the carburetors, and it'll be one solid assembly. Something else that is on our list over here is actually to add a toe loop to the throttle pedal. And why we would do that is, of course, for safety. So basically, if you look at this here, this pedal, and the reason we're making it out of a solid rod instead of using a cable or something, is basically you can add a loop here. We'll add a piece of metal, something that probably attaches up here or attaches to this somehow, and it's going to loop back kind of like this, and it'll give you a spot to slide your foot into, and it'll have a piece of metal here, solid rod, that can be used as a loop. And what will happen is if for some reason you mash the throttle here and something about that stuck, whenever you take and pull your foot back with that loop on it, you can actually pull this and force the throttles closed. So, you know, with that being a solid rod, you can, like I said, push that, which will in turn force the carburetors to be closed. And so if something did happen that would cause something to stick, this is an added precaution here to make sure with that solid rod coming through here and the toe loop that the car would not just stick and hang wide open throttle. All right, so we got started on this. First thing we needed to do was kind of figure out where this rod needed to go through the firewall. We double checked with McCamus and kind of how he does stuff, and he's got some oval shaped kind of elongated holes through the firewalls in his cars to allow the travel. Of course, that's what we need. We just want to make sure and kind of use his cars kind of as a reference to make sure that we're doing what we need to do as far as that goes. So we took a level and came off this center hole here at the top and leveled it, and then that mark there is where that's going through the firewall, where this is going through there. So we're going to take and drill a hole here. That's going to be our starting point. The lever for the throttle linkage is actually a little higher, so this will be kind of the bottom point, and then we'll have to elongate this hole upward and make sure that we've got plenty of clearance for the travel. But we're going to drill this hole here first, and then we can run the rod through, and when we run the rod through, we can figure out how long it needs to be. We can get a good measurements on this, because this is actually where the throttle's basically going to sit when it's at wide open throttle, and then about there is idle, roughly. It's got about 2 inches of total travel. So, all right, so we went ahead and got a heim joint put on this end of the throttle pedal here. Dad's gonna run the aluminum rod that I showed you guys earlier, so you can see it running right through here. This hole that we drilled is just it's about a 9/16 hole, and it's on the low side. Like I said, when we drilled it, we wanted it to be on the low side. We'll have to elongate this way up so that we can give enough clearance for that rod when it's coming through. But what we want to do here, we have the throttle pedal set basically where we want it. I told you it's about a 2-inch travel or so. So since we've got that set, we're going to push this back. We want to give ourselves a little bit of adjustment each way. And so if we come back just a little, about right there is where we want to keep this. Now we can jump out here and look on Dad's side, and you can see now he can take this and mark it, because he's got a heim on this end of that as well, and he knows exactly where he wants it to be at. There you go. So he's marked it. Now we'll cut this off. We'll be able to thread both ends of this, thread our heims in, and we'll have adjustment both ways. The only thing that we'll have left after that is just elongating the hole through the firewall so that we can make sure that that we've got plenty of clearance, there's no scrub, and that yeah, it doesn't try and hang or do anything crazy. One thing I forgot to mention is that those heims actually came from McMaster-Car, and we literally ordered them on Thursday evening, and they were here Friday about lunchtime. Yeah, can't beat that, and these things are really, really nice. Alright, so it's going to have that threaded now. Now the right hand thread heim joint, go run into that, and that'll be our outside part of the rod. So you can see how that's screwing in, how we have our adjustment here. We got a few threads exposed, we can go one direction, and then we've got a lot of adjustment down in the rod itself. So we have plenty of room to kind of, a little bit of wiggle room here. Another thing I mentioned, but I don't know if I was super clear on it, was one side of this heim joint has a left-hand thread heim joint, and on the other side is a right-hand thread. And because of that, if we need to make an adjustment, all we got to do, loosen the lock nuts and then twist the rod. And while you're doing that, you're extending it in both directions, right? When you twist that rod, or you're bringing it in both directions. So you're getting equal adjustment on both sides, and it just makes it easier. Hit that lock nut, twist the rod, lock the nuts down, and you're ready to go. So that's the reason why he actually bought a left-hand thread to do this, or a left-hand thread tap to do this with, and a die. So anyway, that's what he's doing. We got the right hand side done. Left hand side is going to go in the car. He's working on that right there, right now. So we got the rod in. Let me show that right here real quick. So we got the rod in right there. It looks really good, I think, as far as what we want to do. And we still have to open the hole up in the firewall a little bit, but that's connected here, and then also inside here on the pedal. And like I said, we'll have to go up with this hole some so it doesn't bind, because right now when you press it, it does bind, which we knew it would. But I was telling you guys about the left and right hand thread. You can actually, right now, if you do that, Dad can actually adjust this, and he's spinning the rod. So now if you see him spinning that rod out here, you can actually see the pedal make a small adjustment here. So, but that's what we were talking about. All we got to do, undo the lock nut, spin the rod, and it adjusts in and out, moves that pedal. So it's just little stuff like that that kind of adds up to kind of make things just a little easier to work with. All right, successful day today. So we got this in. There's the rod. It's on this side. Dad, if you go press the throttle pedal for me. So he's gonna go in, I've got it attached in there. He's gonna go in there and just work it. I got the firewall opened up. And it appears we have plenty of clearance. There you go, so you can see that whole mechanism working just like that. Perfect. Yeah, so that's all good there. The only thing we are gonna do, so we talked about where to run this right here, this heim joint, on this side or on this side. I like it on this side a lot better because it's almost a dead straight shot back to the other heim joint. However, at part throttle, if you get right here, you can see the clearance to the rod and the intake. Let me zoom in here and see if we can see it a little better. Clearance to the rod and the intake right there is pretty little, to be honest, but this intake's been ground on and everything so much anyway. What we're going to do, and that's not really a sealing point or anything, it's not hurting anything, we're just going to take a die grinder and kind of knock that corner off and give us a little bit more clearance here on that. And that should just make the situation really good all the way through. But just to show the clearance on the firewall, go ahead. How's that all the way? So you can see we've got plenty of clearance all the way through the travel here. There's a little bit more clearance on the bottom, but we want to give ourselves as much room as we can there. So yeah, pretty successful thing. And I would say in general, we can go over here to our little list. Throttle linkage knocked off. It's 3 things. So I think in general that'll kind of do it for today. I think the next thing we're actually going to look at doing, we've got our master cylinder over here. We're going to look at making the fittings to remote mount that reservoir. So Dad'll start working on those, get those put in. The mounting point's already in the floor. It's already there. We're ready to go for the master cylinder itself. But we've got to get some fittings made and some lines run up so we can remote mount a reservoir there. And that's going to be a pretty neat deal. We'll probably get on that in here tomorrow or the next day. Okay guys, we are back. It's been a few days since we've been in the shop, but we're back here today. So I told you guys, I think last time that I was on here, we were talking about building a remote reservoir or set a remote reservoir system for the brake master cylinder. The master cylinder is set up here in the floorboard of the car. So this guy sits right here, bolts up like that. So the plan is to build or to buy a reservoir, and then what we're going to do, we're going to make some fittings that plug right in here like the plastic master cylinder housing used to. So they'll plug in here. There'll be 2 fittings off of those, and then 2 lines that will probably run up this tube, and then the reservoir is going to get mounted here or somewhere in there. and that's the plan. So basically what this does, that big plastic reservoir that's over here, this guy, you don't want this in the way. When you get buckled in, you got your suit on, you got your helmet on, everything like that. This big piece being mounted up here on the floor is just kind of in the way. So if we can get rid of that and just have some fittings here, we are going to put like a foot riser platform in here and probably a cover over this as well. With that reservoir being up there, that's all good. We'll still be able to service the brake system, add any fluid if we need to or anything like that. So that's the plan. So Dad's going to start working on that. That's what we got, some aluminum from Stock Car Steel and Aluminum the other day. This piece right here. That piece is basically big enough to cover those holes there, and then he's going to make this design based off of what's on the bottom of that reservoir. Make this design here with this up top, and then a place for an 1/8 inch NPT. We're going to run some of these air equipped straight fittings and then hose ends like this on it on those lines. So that's what Dad's going to be working on. I'm going to start working on actually taking the motor apart. So I told you guys this thing's just in here. It's just mocked up. It's not like there's not even pistons in this block right now. So now that we've got the throttle linkage done, that's all set up, we can go ahead and pull this. This thing still needs a little machine work done to it. I'll let Dad talk you guys through what needs to be done, a valve job, a few things like that. But I'll let him talk through the details of that. We have some friends of his that are going to do it for us, that we're going to get to do, I should say. So anyway, we're going to pull this out. I'll pull the headers off, pull the carburetors off, pull the intake off, completely disassemble this. Then that's going to open us up to do a couple of other things. So this front motor plate right here, you can see some of the lines that we've drawn here. The plan is to cut this off. There's some weight here that we can get off of this plate by reducing that. And plus, this one's, the way it's been done, we just need to clean it up. You know, there's nothing wrong with it at all. It just needs to be cleaned up a little. Then the other thing that we're going to do is the mid-mount plate. We have a thicker, more robust mid-mount plate we're going to put in this thing. So when this motor comes out, we've got a bunch of things that kind of opens the door for us to keep going, and we can keep working on this thing. So I'm going to get on this, start taking this motor apart. Well, it's a little weird to have disassembly feel like forward progress, but there it is. We got everything but the block out of this thing. The next step to get it out of here, we've already pulled the drive shaft. We're going to loosen the nuts here on the transmission and slide it back out of the way. Get the bell housing out of here, and then we'll be ready. All we'll have to do, we're going to put the engine hoist on the block and probably just unbolt the front plate and then pull this whole assembly out. We'll leave the mid-mount plate in, of course, pull the whole block assembly and the front plate out, and then that'll have that whole unit out, and we'll have everything basically taken apart like we want it. Then we can start making some forward progress. You guys probably saw on a short that I did the other day, these carburetor covers that these guys they're in Nashville. WAF Racing, these guys right here. These super cool little covers they make. This is for like a 4150 style Holly. You can put this over a carburetor. The stud goes through the middle here. It blocks anything from falling down in the engine, but it gives you some options. These holes here will hold your jets, will hold your float bowl screws, place to put screwdrivers and different stuff like that. And then also have this piece here that allows you to put your spark plugs in. So we're actually talking to them about doing this for a Dominator style carburetor. So Dad's been working on that, getting this sketched up for them. They said they didn't have one in-house that they could kind of go off of for some measurements. So we're going to do that for them. We're going to send these over. He's working on getting a drawing done here, this one here, using that as our template. That's what he's been doing. And then after he gets that done, he did get these cut, and he's ready to go ahead and start making some of these fittings for our remote reservoir. So go ahead and get the Lenco slid back. So it's been a while since it's been moved, but we're going to go ahead and work on getting that pulled back. It's pretty heavy. It's a pretty good unit there. But anyway, but we've talked about it before that this right here, it was a Bickle kit that Dad took and built. It just gives us a place to slide. This transmission will slide right back. It's got stops here, and you can see it's already moving there. Slide right back, make servicing the clutch or doing anything like that pretty easy. Maybe not. There you go. Got it through off the studs there, and then that lets it pull out pretty darn easily. All you gotta do is pull the drive shaft out beforehand. Well, this thing is stripped down. It's completely empty. It's the first time in a long time that I've seen it like this. It's been a minute, but we got all the parts and pieces over here in the floor. Got the block sitting here with both the plates on it. Dad's got his engine stand he's built. He built that so he could work on blocks up on a tabletop. But we got that thing just sitting there. It's going to do just perfect. It's not often that disassembly is forward progress, but today it was. So it's a big step. We got the drawing done for the carburetor covers. We're going to send that over to the WAF Racing. See if we can get them to work on that when they get back from sick week here pretty soon. And so anyway, but yeah, so like I said, that's a good disassembly. Something I'm going to do maybe tomorrow. We'll just see what we get into. I've got the titanium can here, which I can pick up with one hand. We've got a set of scales here somewhere. Might pull down the steel can and do a quick comparison between the two and see what savings that we got weight-wise between the two. It'd be very interesting to know that. But anyway, like I said, today was disassembly day. It was a good day. Got it going. So now we can start working on some other tasks, see if we can get some more stuff checked off our list. Well, we got some more done today. Didn't really video a whole lot of it just because I didn't figure you guys wanted to watch us take this apart any more than we already did. But a couple good things we did. We got the Lenco, we pulled the shifters off of it. We got it set out of here. That's gonna open us up in here to kind of do some more stuff. And then the big thing is we went under here and we got the rear end out, all of it completely. Got the 4-link pulled out, the rear end out, the wishbone's out. So everything is out now. The car is basically bare bones, and it's been a really long time since I've actually seen it this stripped down. So we've got everything pulled apart here on the floor. There's the block covered up because all the machine work's been done on it. There's the rear end, the brake calipers, the brake rotors, 4-link Lenco. Over there's the can. Still got to pull those scales out and check that because I would like to do that at some point, but we had to get the steel can out. So today has just been some more forward progress by going backwards a little bit. Yeah, so I don't know what the next step is. I think we'll probably get the fittings for the master cylinder made, get ready to make that remote, and then potentially, I think probably the next big thing while it's up here on the I-beams, we need to attach the rear tubs into the quarters. We're going to do that with adhesive against the quarters and then have a two-piece deal. We'll get back there and talk about that a little bit more. Alright, we are back at it today. Dad has already been working on it today, working on the adapters to go into the master cylinder so that we can make our remote reservoir. So you can see here, he already has them to this point. He has both of them to the same spot here, and that is to a height, and then he's got the 1/8 inch NPT thread for the side of it. Those fittings right there are 3 AN fittings, so they're 1/8 inch NPTs that go into our into this piece here, and then this allows a hose end like this to screw onto it, and we have some more stainless hose that we can make those for. So basically what this is going to look like, and I've already looked at it earlier, I'm thinking we're probably going to end up having to run 90s on this thing, but basically how these will set is like this basically. So those fittings, there'll be 2 of them, and those will kind of come out like this, and the line will most likely run down this bar, and then the remote reservoir will be up here somewhere. But that's kind of the plan. This will get that get that same design that's on the bottom of the master cylinder cut into it here, and then that'll allow that to push down into the master cylinder, which is going to lower this substantially. And then Dad's also going to cut these off a little bit more too to gain us as much room as possible. So that's kind of where we are with that. And while he is doing that, I went ahead and pulled the front motor plate off of the block, and you can see here we have some lines in each one of these corners here. We can cut this out because it's just dead weight, not needed for the motor itself. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to the saw, get these cut off, take it onto the sander, just kind of clean this thing up a little bit from where we've got these sharp corners and stuff like this. Clean that up some, and this will be ready. It'll shave a little bit of weight. It'll make it a little easier to put this into the car, and that'll just be one more thing that we can cross off that list right back there. So Dad took that adapter you guys saw a minute ago, and he's drilling out that center hole where it'll be up as high as where the fitting is. He's actually already done this one. So for example, you can see that hole there, and then that one there, and you can see that they actually intersect. If I had a light in there, you can see, there you go, you can see it a little bit there. Where they intersect, and that's just gonna let the brake fluid flow through the line and down into the master cylinder like it's supposed to. Alright guys, Dad got the first one done. You can hear him in the background working on the second adapter here. I ain't never lied to you guys before. I've been doing this for a year. I ain't never lied to you, at least intentionally. I ain't gonna tell you a lie this time. We did this, and you can see, if I can get the camera to focus on it, you can see this chamfer is actually backwards to what it's supposed to be. But that was an accident. We screwed up. It's just how it goes. Sometimes that's how it goes. But these are still completely usable. The way that Dad has deburred them and cleaned up the edges, they're still not going to hurt the seal. And if you see us go right here, I can take, and I've got the fittings in here also, so you can take and push this down in here. Easily seats in place, and you can see right away how much better this is going to be other than having that big plastic reservoir. So take this and show it. So you can see right here, you have this big giant plastic reservoir here, and this wasn't going to be any good. So this is going to allow that to be completely gone. We'll either run the hoses like this and down this tube, or we might actually, we've talked about it, run it this direction and kind of go around this tube and bring it out here to the outside where it's less likely to get hit with your feet or anything like that, and then bring it up here like that. But these are really good, and like I said, even though we did miss that chamfer, it's still completely usable, really nice piece. Yeah, he does a pretty good job. Don't tell him that his head will grow, they're too big, won't be able to get him out of the shop. And there they are, got both of them put in here. We'll decide on the direction that we want them to eventually run, but that's them. They're both in place. And that really cleans up this master cylinder. It's going to make it a lot better all around. And like I said, we'll either run the lines this way or down that way. We haven't decided yet. But anyway, these might not be the final fittings either. They might have 90s on them. But this piece here is really good. We've got the line that we need. Now we just need to go ahead and buy the remote reservoir and the brakes from Strange and go ahead and get those on the way. Be able to kind of wrap this deal up. Alright guys, I think that's going to pretty much wrap us up for this week. Getting this thing took apart, that was a really important step for us today to kind of get this thing ready. Get the engine block, we're going to get it ready to send it out for some machine work, some different stuff like that. Cylinder heads, all that good stuff. So that was all good. We got the throttle linkage done. And then, like I said, got this thing down to its bare bones. And we're ready to kind of keep moving forward. We appreciate you guys very much. Thanks for following along. Hit that subscribe button if you guys don't care. Very helpful for us. Follow us along on social media and you guys get basically real-time updates on social media as we're moving along with this stuff. And you don't have to wait just for the big videos on Fridays. We'll see you guys next week.